I'd like to call the
Wait a
order.
minute, first get Matt to start the,
Going now.
It's going, it's from, I'd like to call the meeting of the Harwich Real Estate and Open Space Committee, January 17th,
red means hot.
2025 meeting to order. Noting that the meeting began at precisely 9 a.m. We were in an executive session from 8:30 to 9 to discuss releasing of executive committee minutes. Okay. Public, Art Bowden is here. Art, do you have anything to add? You mind a little comment? Pardon? Well, I do have something to say. What's that?
To the table.
Sure.
Yes.
Oh. Well, I'll try to make this short and sweet. Art Bowden, Harwich. I'm here wearing my community preservation hat. And the little ditty I have is CBC helps fund Community Development Partnership, who puts on the Housing Initiatives Program, workshops. And every year they come to CPC and ask for basically a stipend. It's not a lot of money. It's usually around $10,000. And all the towns that are in the Lower Cape area also support Community Development Partnership to put on these workshops. So the question came up about, how well are they being received? And the answer was dismal from Harwich. Generally, they get a good turnout from the other towns. But apparently Harwich, for whatever reason, either they've gone to all the workshops like I have in the past, and their workshop burnt out, or they just don't see the need of it, or maybe it's lack of communication. So that's what I'm here, trying to get the word out that and the flyers go out, they do a marketing every month. They have a monthly, usually it's a monthly program. And they send flyers out. They usually send flyers to all the committee chairs. They send to the town administrator and all the department heads and so on and so forth. And so with that said, I wasn't going to go to this past one, which was wastewater and housing. I said, well, it's got housing in there, so I'm interested in housing. And I think we're all interested in wastewater because that's going to be driving our taxes and so on and so forth. But anyways, so I went, and I was blown away by the presentation. They're all very professionally done. They bring in top-notch people to talk in their field. And I couldn't believe that wastewater could actually be made enjoyable to listen to. I mean, the presenter, he was a scientist, and he was from an organization that deals with wastewater. And he was a little on the dry side, but he was entertaining. But he brought the conversation down to everyone's level so they could understand what he was talking about. And I actually learned quite a bit. And then on the other side of the coin was housing, and I learned even more. So I guess you can keep on learning. So my point is, when these programs come up, and if you can see it to your way, take advantage of them. They're all virtual, so you can sit in the comfort of your home and just watch it on your computer or whatever. So you don't have to go out in a storm like this. Anyways, and hopefully get our participation as a town up, because if the participation isn't there, the CPC is going to say, well, why are we funding this? We're not getting any benefit out of it. So, and it is a good program. Thank you. Art, I got a question. As a chair, I've never received any notification of these things. You're not getting any? Well, that's good feedback. So I'll go back to the people that run the show. Yeah, find out what list they're using and where they're getting. Well, I think
I get it all the time. I could always just forward to you when I get it.
Yeah,
Oh, he should,
Yeah.
he should get
They're
it.
supposed to send it.
Yeah, but the notice is,
This is a problem if
Yeah,
committees
right.
or changes
Yeah.
are not being forwarded to.
that's a good point.
Because
Very
I
good
would-
point.
I would have been very interested in the wastewater.
I'll follow up on that, thank you. Oh, see, it was interesting, thank you.
Thanks, Sarah.
You know, Dave, very often they have these things like sort of archived so you can, tap into it, even if you didn't make the one that was broadcast on a particular date.
Oh, there is an archive as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not on the, or on the
No, not on
Harwich.
our website, but on the Community Development Partnership.
Oh,
I mean,
okay.
I've participated in quite a number of them. They're real easy to tune into, and
Yeah,
they're
I've
very
done-
informative.
I've done a couple, so yeah, it's easy.
Exactly. So, I mean, like Art said, the problem is that Harwich's participation has been pretty low over the last, 4 or 5 years. And so in order to beef up the participation, trying to get more of the word out. So the housing coordinator in town, is sort of the first person that they get information to. So, make sure, if we can make sure that she has, like, your name and email, then you can disperse it if you think it's of value to the committee. Because a lot of times they have things that specifically relate to open space acquisition and housing.
Thank you. Not aware. Any other questions? Please, nothing. Okay, now let's move to the approval of minutes. Carol informed me that we have minutes from September 20th, 24, to approve. It was not done at the last meeting. Is that correct?
Right. We did that same.
And as well as the last meeting on December 13th. So let's start with the approval of the minutes from September 20th. Those came through at some point, probably prior to the last meeting. Was there any questions with those? Nobody remembers them? All right. Can I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Or
Aye.
any discussion at all?
No,
Corrections? All in favor?
I,
Aye.
Aye. Brad's aye. I'm an aye.
Aye.
Okay. December's meeting minutes. Can I have a motion to approve those?
December 13th.
December 13th?
Oh, we didn't just do them at once? I thought.
No,
No.
I do them
Okay.
just in case there's,
I'll move that we approve the minutes from December 13th, 2024.
second?
December what?
13th.
13th. Second.
All in, discussion.
Other than nice job, Carol. it
Thank
was-
you.
I had a couple of little minor
Oh.
editing situations. Here, I'll give this to you, just wording. Here. This, I think, is supposed to be
Okay. Oh,
You have to say what,
I thought I looked up Hawks Nest State Park.
One was a
and- oh,
replacement of the word of with the word and the fact that Hawks Nest is actually a single word, not two words. Trivial, by far. Okay, can I have,
All right, but if you look up Hawks Nest State Park, it's 2 words.
it's 2 words?
but the road is Hawk's Nest, one word.
Well, it just
But
says
this
there's
is-
a piece west of Hawks Nest State Park.
Oh, okay. All right.
That's,
Now, that's new.
oh, wait a minute, that's of West
Everything I've
Virginia.
ever seen.
That's
No,
of West
forget it.
Virginia.
Listen, then forget it. I stand correct, I can be corrected.
No.
No, that's West Virginia.
Oh, that's Hawks Nest, West Virginia.
I didn't read the fine print.
Almost heaven.
Okay, yeah, I always thought it was one word, too.
I had looked it up, so I was,
You looked it up, and
but I didn't look at the,
Google doesn't
Fine
say
print.
that, got multiples of those, doesn't it?
So we need to amend
okay, so,
amend the motion to include the changes.
Okay,
um,
Who made the motion?
so you,
go back and approve it.
Move with corrections.
With
You move
corrections.
to accept them with corrections.
I amend the motion to approve with the corrections as stated.
Second.
Should have kept my mouth shut.
Now we need to vote. We need to vote.
Yeah, we need to vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right.
All right, that's that. We're moving on to the review of the open space and recreation plan. I hope everybody had a nice weekend and curled up with a cup of tea and sat down and read every word of 100 pages.
Yeah.
That was, you know, it was a heck of a document. That's all I can say. And I'm going to pass it up to you, Margot.
Okay.
You can raise the issues that you wish to with the
Okay.
committee, and then we'll get down to
And Amy can help me out here because she's been very involved in this. The Open Space and Recreation Plan is being updated as part of the overall local comprehensive plan update. But it really, it's a standalone document, and it's a document that we need in order to be eligible for a bunch of different kinds of state grants for land preservation and recreational facilities and so forth. So it's, as it says in the latest version here, it was originally adopted in the late 90s. It's been updated several times since then. The last couple of times it was updated, there weren't really substantive changes made to it. And when we started really getting into this, we realized, oh my goodness, there's so much information in it that's out of date, and it leaves a lot of stuff out that has been done in those intervening years. So it ended up being a much more substantial rewrite of it than we originally expected. But you can see from the table of contents, the kinds of things that it covers. And basically, the state provides a template for how this is to be done. I mean, the content is really dictated by the state's template. And we have to answer all of the questions and discuss all the topics that they want discussed in one of these plans in order to get it approved. So, we go through what the statement of purpose is, we talk about what the community setting is, and then go through a pretty detailed environmental inventory and analysis, taking into account all kinds of different things, fisheries and wildlife and wetlands and geology and all that sort of thing. And then there's one of the most labor-intensive part of doing this update was to do an updated inventory of all the lands that the town owns for recreation and open space. And it's it's one of those tedious jobs that because this committee has worked on a lot of those acquisitions, we have a certain amount of it in our heads, but there are a lot of little niggling, detailed things that we weren't necessarily involved in, like, the water department has bought lands, and the selectmen have bought lands and sold lands for, different purposes. So Amy and Christine Flynn, the town planner, really did a pretty deep dive on just trying to document all of that. And we had a consultant working with us on this, and the consultant did a lot of the writing, but we had to do a lot of rewriting just because they weren't that familiar with the town, and they didn't have any of the institutional memory to know what had happened over, all of these years. So, then the most important, arguably the most important part of the plan is the goals and objectives. So it sets out, looking forward, where do we want to put our energy and our effort with both natural resource protection and conservation, passive and active recreation goals, ADA access to public lands, and what the town will use for public policy and regulatory practices to try to encourage good management of the lands that we do own. So that's really what it covers. And as Dave said, it's jam-packed with information. It's got a ton of information in there. It takes a while to read it. I've read it probably 5 times now, and I still miss things, you know, and it still needs more editing. There are parts of it that are not finished, like the prioritization of all of the recommended actions has not yet been completed. We started that in December and basically just ran out of time. The group that's been working on this is made up largely of town department heads, so recreation, harbor master, conservation, obviously, the planner, DPW, I'm going to forget some here. Who have I forgotten? I don't know. Et cetera. You get the idea. We had a group of about, I don't know, 10 different department heads. And in addition to that, they asked me to be on the committee to be the liaison between this committee and that, and also between the local comprehensive plan committee and that. And Mike Locke also participated in it because obviously the trust has been so active in recent years on land acquisition. So it's getting this, again, the plan is needed so that we can be eligible for some really important grants going forward. Can you talk a little bit about the process, Amy, in terms of how it ultimately gets approved? Because I'm not as clear. I know Christine can do that, but I'm not.
Yeah. Lee Visowski, Conservation Administrator. I can't speak specifically to, I know that the committee has to endorse it. It's going to the Conservation Commission for review next week, preliminarily, because it's still in draft form. And then I think it gets submitted to the state, and I do believe it has to be approved at town meeting.
No, not at town meeting, but I think there has to be a public hearing.
Yes,
Yeah.
there has to be a public hearing
Yeah.
about it. So,
The local comprehensive plan has to be
Okay.
approved at town meeting about this, yeah.
yeah. So I did talk with Christine yesterday, and she's not able to be here today. The hope is to wrap up everything by mid-February and have it in final form in order to have that public forum.
Any questions or comments that you guys have to carry back to the committee?
So we're still referencing the 2016 wastewater plan. Because, that's just, the town keeps waiting for the next plan because that's not in effect anymore.
That, until it gets replaced, it isn't.
Right, but we can't follow it because the state came out with those new rules that we have to have it done in 20 years instead of 30. And because,
Yeah,
but we have to reference it, I guess, because that's all we have, but I really wish the town had a new one.
well, so do I.
Yeah.
And I think that's something, that's one of the follow-up items for the local comprehensive plan, is to try to make sure that the wastewater planning is in sync with what the town wants to do with land use planning, because if you decide that you want to have higher density development in a given neighborhood, you've got to have the wastewater infrastructure to support that.
Right.
So, but, as we were working on this, things were happening in town, and so it's like, what is the cutoff point that you stop updating, and you just have to pick one and go with it, because otherwise you're just going to be chasing your tail indefinitely. So, and the wastewater plan is what we have to work with right now, so.
Right, you're not going to have a new one by February, that's for sure, yeah.
So can I ask a question? So if between the two of you, if you had to pick like the number 1 or 2 most the change that was from previous plan, what would you say it was? Most substantive change?
The entire thing, to be honest.
Okay.
What Christine worked on, a whole lot, was updating the property lists between the town, nonprofits, state. There was a ton of updating that needed to get done
Sure.
from that, because when, like Margot said, the last time we did the update in 2016, 2017, really didn't look at that too much. It was really just a word, updating and whatnot. So that was a huge part. And then the goals and objectives really hadn't been, I don't feel, really evaluated as the last time as well. So, I mean, probably the last time that we really looked at the goals and objectives was probably way more than 10 years ago at this point. And some things have changed. So, and that's still the part, and the prioritization has changed.
So would,
I think, for example, there's been a lot of discussion in town about different kinds of recreational facilities and where the town should be putting emphasis on that. And there's more of a push in this for doing recreational programs for young people. That, we've got a fairly robust set of programs through the community center for older people, but that kids, school-age kids, don't have as much. And I know that there have been parents groups who have come before the Board of Selectmen to talk about that, and so so there's more in there about that. Pickleball wasn't a thing, back in
right.
So I mean, it's those kinds of things. Also, I think the plan reflects a little bit the fact that our relationship with the Harwich Conservation Trust has changed a little bit over the years, and really the trust has taken the leadership role in identifying and pursuing projects, and we've been more in a support role, which I think is perfectly appropriate. They have the professional resources to be able to, really do strategic planning and meet with landowners and build relationships and all of that, which I think is very difficult for a volunteer committee, town committee to do.
Yeah.
So I think that's been a really, really fruitful relationship. And if you read Section 5 of this, there's a summary which I helped develop, which highlights the major things that we've accomplished in this time period since the last plan was adopted. And there's a lot of stuff in there. I mean, this committee and the trust have done a lot of great work in the last 10 years. So I think it's exciting to see it sort of documented someplace.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's very comprehensive, and it's going to be what you turn to if you're looking for some specific information of, what are all the ponds that we have, what are all the rec programs, what are the, whatever. It's very comprehensive.
Yeah.
So kudos to all of you that devoted the time to doing this, because I'm sure it was tedious.
Certainly parts of it were.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Dave, by the way, gave it a really thorough read, and gave me a list of edits, which I'm really happy for those, because I can't tell you, when you read the same thing over and over again, your brain starts to go to sleep or something, and you miss things like that. So fresh eyes looking at that was really helpful.
I figured as much. When I read the fact that it was,
Yeah.
this was like the 15th, 15th time
Yeah.
you created the document.
Always hard to come up with new goals and objectives, to change them up and stuff like that. So, again, great
Well,
job.
I think the goals haven't changed dramatically, but there might be different emphasis within them. And one of the things that, it was brought up in the last plan, and I think it's even more so now, management is a really important, management of the lands that we do have. is a really important thing. And, you know, in the early years of the land bank, when I first got on this committee, we were just like, let's buy as much as we
Right.
possibly can. And we got, you know, we protected a lot of land in those years, but we really didn't have management plans for much of any of it. And conservation has done a lot of work in recent years on management plans for Bell's Neck and for Thompson's Field and, you know, other town properties. And that's going to be an important priority going forward, so.
Is there a management plan for Island Pond?
Yes, Island Pond, Bell's Neck, and Thompson's Field.
Okay.
Next on the docket, hopefully, will be Robbins Pond Conservation Area, a little-known conservation area up in Northwest Harwich.
That was one of the comments I made in there. 'Cause
Where is it?
You referred to
Northwest
it,
Harwich?
you
It's
call
up,
it Robbins Pond, but it's actually Great Swamp Bog is the sign. So which is it?
The conservation area is called Robbins Pond
called-
Conservation Area, yes.
Because there was a sign up there that when I first
It's
discovered
the bog
it.
itself,
Huh?
the bog, I think the bog
Is that just the bog?
itself was called Great Swamp Bog,
Okay.
but not the upland necessarily around it.
All right. Oh, okay.
It's past 200 acres up there.
Oh, I was
and
up
it
there- I
adjo-
was
yeah,
up there yesterday
yeah,
wandering around,
it's-
so.
Yeah. That is, I think, the next property in need of a management plan and more active management there.
and there's also a number of recommendations in the plan for trying to do a resource management plan for the Six Ponds area
Mhm.
as well. So, so those are sort of highlights.
Any other comment?
I need to slip that
Lane has to roll out. I mean, as I said, I'm impressed with the amount of detail and thought that went into it. I didn't realize that there was this template that you guys were filling out.
Yeah.
But I can see where, another question I had was the amount of repetition. I kept reading the same thing. Wait a second, I've read that before, but I can
Yeah,
see
I
if their
think
template is
I
driving.
think that's why it comes out that way.
Yeah.
We're trying to get rid of some, we caught that, it is an extremely repetitive document and redundant. In some ways, it almost has to be, though, because of the format that the state wants it to be, which is a little frustrating, because at numerous times we say the same thing, but it asks you questions that you have to fill in.
Well, it got into like the 5 villages and descriptions. It's like, all right, this one's, 80% of that one, and
Yeah.
so forth. Anyway, but now I understand.
Yeah.
I found that the shrinking population statement in there was interesting. But then I realized that the fact that the town population is expected to shrink by, was it 2040? Really doesn't matter, because if it's just being backfilled with second home ownership, you still got the same demand.
Yeah, if
Um,
not more.
But I didn't think about it, but it's pretty clear that the school systems are showing that the full-time population is
Yeah,
decreasing, and those of us who are getting older are gonna be disappearing.
yeah, and population projections are, well, they're like any other economic projection. They might or might not come
Might come
true.
to
That's right,
fruition.
that's right. But I don't think it's gonna create any less demand, maybe full-time demand,
Yeah, the seasonality of the demand may change,
seasonality.
which we already have a different seasonal demand for things, but it may get even bigger.
Oh, we
Of a
really,
disparity.
we really saw that during COVID.
Yeah.
The second homeowners coming down and staying here, the woods were full of people, in places that I that I still walk regularly and don't really see, many people. During COVID, oh my gosh, it's like, where are all these people coming from? So, and it's dropped off again now because they're not here full-time, so,
Well, some people in our neighborhood are still around.
Are they?
That came
Yeah.
down.
yeah,
So that-
came down and stayed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the one comment, and this is not a critique, but my one comment was, I was disappointed that the appendices weren't in there. Because I'm a data guy, and I want to read
yeah.
it, I want to see what data they have, and
Well, the appendices exist.
They do,
It was
okay.
just too big a file to send. I mean, like, just a list of all of the properties, oh my gosh. Because you have to, that list is not just a list. It has like about 20 fields of data for
Oh, wow.
each
Yeah.
parcel,
Yeah.
you know, so, yeah.
That's the stuff that I find
I know,
interesting.
I love
I'm
that
in here-
stuff.
I'm reading each of those charts, I'm going all the way down, all right, what birds are we got and everything else?
Yeah.
Well, and that's how I picked up the
Yeah,
one
well,
of them
if
that
you
was
wanna,
doubled.
if you want to see it, talk to Christine, because she's got it.
She's got,
Yeah, and it will, when the plan is
When
done,
it's-
it'll
when it's-
all be
well,
put up online as well, the appendices too.
Yeah.
now, did they use the assessors database to drive that?
Used a lot of it, and Christine did a ton of work on it, and Carly downstairs to try to fill in the blanks. So we use the assessor's database, but I think Carly was looking at old deeds, really trying, like going back into archives to try to fill in the blanks that had just been left blank for years because nobody, had taken the time to do more research on them.
Yeah, well, I know that Carly had said that a lot of those miscellaneous parcels were town property and so forth, that they
Yeah.
finally got back on the roll from having watched the last month's meeting. Well, I congratulate you all who worked on it. I think it's a magnificent document.
Yeah,
Sorry.
so I was gonna say, so for our purposes, real estate and open space, we should focus here on the 7-year action plan, which, under the natural resource protection and conservation goals, the initial objectives, have to do with real estate and open space. And so I guess we should talk about that at some point.
I don't think there's anything here we have to vote on. or-
No,
I think
no,
that's
absolutely
what
not.
not.
Ready.
it
No,
was.
I'm just saying that's,
Right, but it was a great exercise to sit down and read it over multiple days.
There will be a public presentation of the draft on Wednesday night to the Conservation Commission at 6 o'clock, if anybody is so interested.
When is it?
6 o'clock Wednesday night here. It is also virtual, you can attend virtually. And Christine is just going to give an overview for the public of the plan. Commission's not going to take action either, but they may ask questions, comments, suggestions. But if anybody's interested in attending or watching, you can do so Wednesday evening.
Okay, I plan to be there. So Christine's
Me
going
too.
to give a presentation.
I'm not exactly sure. I thought she was going to give an overview presentation
Right.
of it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Good.
All right,
All right.
anything else?
great job,
With respect to the OSRP?
big task.
Right, thank you very, very much. I appreciate it. Okay, on a new business, number one I had here was lack of movement on previous recommendations by the select board. Elaine and I had an opportunity to meet with Mike McCaskill last Monday and had a very, very successful meeting.
Oh, good.
I learned a fair amount of it, a lot of stuff out of it. But it turns out that the select board is a little skittish in terms of trying to take on some of the property stuff, given the fact of what happened with the Judah Eldridge parcel. I was not aware of the fact that had ended up in court, or whether it was it or something similar to it ended up in court. And the Supreme Court made the decision that the town would have to put aside, rather than the $369,000 that was originally appraised at, but they would have to put aside enough for the $1.2 million, which the court decided the property was.
So
Current.
they have to put in escrow, 1.2 million for what,
That's-
3 years?
That's what the impression was. Apparently, and not surprising in my book, they got bad advice from the council,
Mhm.
who said that that's all they would have to put away.
Mhm.
I was concerned because I said that 26 or 24 acres was not worth $369,000 in anybody's estimation.
Yeah.
But apparently, in the time that it took to do all of that stuff, the amount of tax on it went up, so all these equations changed. And the town has decided to not put it in escrow, put the money in escrow. So
Excuse me, you said
they,
not,
they did not put the additional money in escrow after looking at the number of errors that were there. Because I'd heard from Bob Freitas that it was like 200,
yeah,
and Mike said it was over 300 or 400 people at that point. And they didn't expect 300 or 400 people to be knocking on the door.
okay. So what's the status right now?
We own it.
We own it
We own it.
by,
It was purchased in July. The deed came through in July.
but how did it go
Town,
through?
I
Was it
shouldn't say the
a
deed, the taking occurred.
taking of it?
The taking
by-
of it was.
For
done in
taxes, for back taxes? Was it a tax foreclosure, or was it, we took it by eminent
July.
domain?
No, it was taken by eminent domain.
Okay.
But one of the things that I've still can't get a straight answer. If I remember correctly, at town meeting, it was for conservation purposes.
Yes.
The taking did not say that it was for conservation purposes. And if I look at the assessor's records, it says that it's, to the selectmen, belongs to the selectmen. That's not conservation land if it belongs to the selectmen. And I think we're gonna have to hold some feet to the fire to make sure that if town meeting voted for conservation, that it is in conservation.
All right, so Jude Eldridge aside,
Mhm.
what you're saying is that
Well, that.
there are a
because
number
it-
of other
Yeah.
potential multi-air
No, they're just.
unknown properties?
I think this just feeds into the same thing with the Sutton property, previous Sutton property.
Yeah.
And that, getting the lawyers involved and the trouble of doing all, they don't want to get involved in anything right now.
Okay, so let me just understand then. So is the end result just to leave parcels on the owner's unknown list, or what? I mean,
Well, about the only thing that they're willing to do are tax takings, okay?
okay,
You can do those, but again, I think they're gonna be skittish about that as well, okay? First of all, and I would advocate that they never take anything if somebody's living in the house, okay? Tax taking, I think they just let the liens build and wait until they depart. But things like owners, if it's owners unknown and it's being taxed, or it's taxed to the heirs of, I think they're gonna be hesitant about it, because you have to do all the deed research, you gotta find out how many, and it's expensive. To go chasing down all of
Town
these.
meeting appropriated $500,000 to do that work.
Well, I think that $500,000 is, they're trying to get, they want to get people, and don't get me wrong, but I think that's going to be part of the slowness of it. How much are they going to spend going forward in terms of,
well, are they gonna continue the research, or is this 500,000
they do
gonna?
want to continue the research, okay, that came out of this, but, are they going to chase the property down once they get the research done? I think that, the low-hanging fruit that they did, that Carly described last month, I think has made some pretty good progress on that. It was news to me that the new parcel that was built on 39, the 3 lots next to
Thompson's?
Thompson's
Yeah.
Field,
Yeah.
was actually a miscellaneous parcel.
But if it was a miscellaneous parcel and somebody wanted to build on it, they'd have to come forward with a deed and produce,
And
okay.
they did, and I remember when they
Right.
started doing some testing in there. I went and saw
Right.
Donna about it.
Remember that.
And, nothing happened there, but when they finally got pushed, had a plan and all the rest of that stuff, they were required, as Carly described, that, I need some background, where this
Right.
deed came from and so forth. And they were able to justify
Okay.
it.
Well, where does this leave us with, like, in particular, the parcel off of Little Shaver Lane? Where does that leave us?
Where does that leave us?
Not, and I mean us as a collective town.
Well, there have been people who have looked into the parcel and have decided that there is no way they could get control over what's there.
Based
And
on-
Mike has given me the name who's, someone who might be willing to meet with us, with me. According to Mike's description, is that there are, these researchers are out there who can't get control over a piece of property, that have tried in the past to share that information with the town, in the assessor's office, the selectmen. Nobody wanted to touch it. Why? That's just what Mike's telling me. So my response was, would they be willing to share it with me, as chair of the Real Estate and Open Space Committee? And Mike says, I'll check with them and see if they will. Because I'd rather it be shared with the town, so that the town can maybe take it by eminent domain. Try to provide more information to the researchers that the town may be hiring, if this research has already been done.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely. I mean,
Yeah, there's just
why not?
no reason for the town council, whoever's doing the research, to be starting with a blank slate, if there's information out there. So,
I mean, so our ultimate objective with some of these bigger parcels is to somehow get control of the development of it. However, whatever that shapes out to be, whether it's all in conservation or water protection or partial housing development and conservation or whatever. So what would be, what from your conversation, what are next steps?
get that meeting set up.
Okay, all right.
And I've asked for it sooner rather than later. And I'll see what we come up with. If it's good stuff, we'll sit down and discuss it.
Would it make sense to include Mike Kwok in a meeting like that?
I'd rather not at the initial meeting. My initial meeting is more to find out,
Yeah, okay. It's
how willing
exploratory.
they are, how much where, and
Yeah.
so on and so forth. This
I'll
is,
just-
this is just a meet and greet type
Yeah,
environment to understand
yeah.
So,
what Mike is saying, what
Okay.
McCaskill is saying, in fact, aligns with what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
so the back taxes that are owed to the town from property liens or whatever is, as we know, between what, 5 and 6 million or something like that?
It's a lot less now. Jude
How much?
is gone.
Okay,
That was the number one by
okay, all
a
right.
big amount.
All right, so
I
let's say
think
we
that-
have between 4.5 and 5 million. Is that, without any pursuing of some of this stuff that you were just talking about, is that just gonna remain the way it is?
Well, a lot of that back taxes, the tax liens are there. They just haven't foreclosed on them.
Right, but,
That, from that standpoint, I'm gonna try to get somebody from the tax department to come in and speak to us
Yeah. But-
about those things.
But the difficulty is, the biggest parcels, the ones that, we put on our priority list, are not on the rolls. There aren't back
Not on
taxes.
those, you're right.
right,
you know?
I understand that.
Yeah,
I understand that, but we were working with a couple different things here.
Yeah, we are.
One was that, and one was unknown,
Yeah.
that kind of thing, so, I was just curious as to, the direction the town was gonna take. Okay.
I don't have clarity on what
Right.
their real.
I mean, because, if something's owned by the heirs of, and we're just letting the taxes accrue, and until, I don't know when,
Well, until you can take it by with, the problem, if you can take it for back taxes, that may be one thing. But when you still have to do the deed research
Right.
and find out all the errors and everything else, and it's like, is it really worth your time? I mean, that.
But, so I guess at what point is there like a cutoff that says this parcel's no longer valued for what the taxes are owed on it?
Well, the biggest problem, I think, is that the value of property here is growing faster than the taxes can
Yeah.
Right.
get to.
Yeah, and the subdivision that Bob Freitas did, Raptor Road,
Yeah.
off of Hawks Nest, back in the, I don't know, 2010, something like that, this committee looked into buying the piece of property that fronted Hawks Nest Road for that parcel of land. And at that time, town council said to us, there's no clear title to this land, and so it can't be developed. So you never, you're wasting your money and your time buying this property because it just can't be developed. Well, guess what? It can be developed, and it was developed. So, it's just a matter of time and research and doggedness, and people can do it. And so, I mean, what we've advocated for is, let's get into that business. Let's be the people who do it, and, have some benefit to the town for, whatever we decide is the proper use for these parcels of land. But, I mean, that little Shaver property is directly up gradient of the
Right.
town wells.
Right.
I mean, absolutely the primo spot for, waste to go into our wells. And why would not we want to see it protected,
I think we should keep advocating for that.
Absolutely. That's,
Yeah.
I've said over and over again about, that's number one priority.
Yeah.
That's it, and I
Yeah.
expressed that to Mike as well. I mean,
Yeah.
it's, and, if he's got a link to give us some information on that, then I want to see
Let's
it.
pursue it, yeah.
But it's just a question of, can we get something that will make it move along?
Mm-hmm.
But in the meantime, pushing the select board to take some action, I think is, Mike was saying, is basically they're skittish. So let's see what we can do in terms of gathering something that will make them a little bit
All right.
less skittish in that regard. And Mike, in that meeting, suggested that we take a look at the select board charge to the real estate committee, as the real estate and open space, which is, I had to search around to get a real copy of it, which I sent.
Yep.
And the, interestingly enough, as I read it, I said, gee, the first thing is review the Harwich master plan, which I think is the local comprehensive plan,
Yeah.
to land-related issues as they apply to future needs identified in the plan. I said, oh, well, we've just done the OSRP. Maybe in a future meeting, we ought to take a look at the LCP.
Yeah.
And
Believe it or not, the LCP is actually shorter than the.
I started looking at that one, yes. I already,
Not a lot shorter, but.
so I've grabbed a draft copy of that from the planning committee's webpage. But I didn't want to include it with the OSRP because
Yeah.
I'd never get you to read any
Yeah.
of it. So it's 77 pages.
What?
The
Draft LCP.
the LCP,
Yeah.
the local comprehensive plan, and we'll address it at a future meeting.
Okay.
You know, what-
I mean, it looks like most of this charge we do.
I think it is. I think we do. I just,
Check.
I mean, I looked at it and said, I guess it's just that one thing Mike wanted us to
Yeah,
look.
all right.
So, but yeah, I didn't see anything in there that, was news to me. What was the other thing? All right, and we're getting a little late here. Is there any other questions with those two items about the meeting with Mike?
Oh.
And, our charge. I'm going to pass it off to Carol now, because Carol had this whole idea for somehow storing our minutes on the web someplace.
Google Docs.
In the cloud. And Carol, you want to talk about what you're thinking of?
All right, well, I mean, we all keep our own hard copies or digital copies, but they're all separate. And we just learned that, some people are missing some people have some, and they don't necessarily get passed down to the next secretary or chair.
Right.
So one way is to put them on Google Docs, which you can control by a password. And, if the committee changes, you can change the password, so you can secure them that way. And that would not only keep all the documents in one place, but Robert's Rules just says if there's an attachment that's brought up at the meeting, a report or something, or a spreadsheet, it only has to be referenced. But this way, we could save them there, and so you'd all have all that information. Like, we all have copies of our review of properties that are brought before us. But, you might not be using the latest, or someone new may come on and not get it. That way, they would all be there for all of us to access whenever we want. In one place, so the next person, the next committee that comes along, or the next grouping, it's right there for them.
It's supposed, all of them should be in the town clerk's records. That's the repository, the official repository for the town of all of the minutes.
The minutes, especially of the regular meetings, you can just go online, anybody can get them, I
Right.
do it all the time, right? So those are okay.
Yeah.
But Robert's Rules doesn't say you have to include the reports in the minutes. So if we want to see some background reports, we only have them individually.
So when you say reports, what are you talking about in terms of reports? Because we don't get a ton of reports.
Oh, well, maybe a property that we're going to walk and we get a map.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, like when
That's not
Mike
included.
will
Sure.
often bring us a whole package.
Sure,
of,
Right.
sure, okay,
stuff
so
about a
that's what you're
particular
talking about.
parcel.
Right.
Okay.
Or even our document that we're supposed to review when someone brings property to us to review.
Okay.
We
So
don't-
you mean
we
our
don't-
evaluations?
Yeah.
Is that what you mean?
The
Okay.
evaluations, those are not in one central place right now. And those don't get saved at the town clerk.
And I might add, appraisals. At one time, we were getting funding for some of the appraisals through either CPA funds or something like that, and therefore, we owned the appraisal.
Right.
I actually have like 3 appraisals,
Yeah.
hard copies. I don't want them anymore, so if we want to put them someplace,
Yeah.
and I remember working with Dave Spitz years and years ago about finding some miscellaneous, he had a file that had some miscellaneous things like that in it.
Yeah.
There's been no central repository.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Right.
that's a really good point.
yeah. Like I've got the Verroki appraisal.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
I'm sure that anything HCT was involved in, they have their
Yeah.
appraisal. But many times, we either get an appraisal, we get a copy of an appraisal, that kind of thing.
That sort of thing.
Yeah, you're right.
I would think something like the appraisal is obtained by the town, right?
Right.
Obtained by the town administrator.
Mm.
That should be in their file.
Yeah, it should, but I think there's been a disconnect
True about
occasionally.
any corporation, how
Yeah.
good are the files?
Yeah,
But are we just duplicating things that are available elsewhere?
I think what Carol is suggesting is that going forward, we can put it all in one place, and then it gets handed off to whoever the new leadership of the committee is. And I think it's actually a good idea, because with all the committees that there are in town, some of them are staffed by different departments, you know, like, so conservation, all the records are kept in Amy's office, and planning, you know, with Christine, but with a volunteer committee like this, it's, you have it in your file because you were the chairman when, you
Right.
know.
Right.
You know, so,
And it's not difficult. All it would take is, when you leave a meeting, just, the secretary just scan them.
Right.
yeah.
Well, I remember when you handed off the executive session minutes to me, it was just a file that you sent me. And I still have it. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, and I was able to use it for cross-referencing, but I was mostly using my hard copies,
Yeah.
which I'd like to get rid of all that stuff
Right.
if possible,
Right.
Yeah.
I mean,
you know?
Yeah, I think, I don't see any downside to it, you know, do you?
Well, I have, yeah.
Okay. All right, give it to us.
yeah, give it to us.
I'll give you a couple of experiences I've had with similar situations. One involves my neighborhood association. I have, or had for a long time, I was the treasurer. And according to their bylaws, the treasurer maintains the archives. And so I started reading the archive. Fascinating reading in terms of the airport. Our neighborhood, back in this was in the early 60s, when they were building the airport down in Thompson's Field, was a major anti-group to the whole thing, and worked with went after the selectmen to stop this thing, because it would have been right in the
Right over their heads.
right in the
Yeah.
approach. So, it's a very valuable thing. When I gave up the treasurership to someone else, he says, "You give me all that paper, I'm taking it straight to the dump."
Yeah.
I didn't give it to him, I refused to.
Mhm.
So, yeah, there is value in somehow centralizing, saving it. But like this committee, using something like Google Docs is not, who's gonna support that long-term? Who's gonna manage it? All right? You gotta, it's outside the realm of the town. It's really the
Yeah, that's
town's
true.
responsibility to provide that type of storage capacity.
Yeah.
Not go off and use something. And Google Docs is a nice tool. But similarly, we use it for the townwide tour of the trash and to store documents. The people who changed stopped using it. They lost the login. Nobody knows how to use it. It's,
Yeah, okay.
you're gonna run into the same situation. One advantage to paper is everybody knows about paper, okay? Paper lasts a long time, doesn't run into situations where you put it all on TikTok and it's gonna disappear on Sunday. Something like that, that can happen. And particularly when you're dealing with technology I got scads of 3.5-inch, or a head, 3.5-inch floppy disks that had all kinds of information on them.
That
Did I
you'll never see
remember
again.
to transfer them over to the new? You can't just say, I want to solve this problem, because it's not necessarily a long-term solution. If what you need is long-term solution, let's spend some time thinking how you're going to do that transfer, Who's going to be responsible for it? And are you going to be just basically taking everything we've got in folders and just, and it ends up being thrown away, even though it's electronic form.
The planning department used to have a file for us. They did. And I don't know if they still have it. We should talk to Christine about that, because,
Have we ever sent them, we haven't sent them anything in years and years, though.
no, I don't think we have.
So what do you mean a file? You mean a physical hard copy file?
Yeah, a hard copy, a hard copy file.
Well, yeah, that was the Dave Spitz
Yeah,
file
Yeah,
drawer, and it
right.
probably
Those
got
are gone.
passed on,
Those are
but,
gone.
yeah.
yeah.
Um,
So let's just review quickly, like, what we do have. All of the regular minutes are filed someplace with the town clerk.
Right.
Correct?
And you can just
Okay. Access them.
go to our
Agendas and
website and
minutes
find
are
anyone you
filed
want.
with the town clerk.
The executive committee, the executive session minutes, many will be filed with the town clerk, okay? It's at some point, okay? The rest of the extra stuff, the, appraisals, the extra information we get regarding particular properties and stuff like that.
Right.
Do you have that online in a particular file anywhere?
No,
Okay, so perhaps that's the place to start. The clerk could put those things, if she has them, or if you only want to do it moving forward, into a file that gets passed on to the next clerk. At least we'll have that someplace, the backup information.
Until the next clerk
Well,
doesn't decide to keep it. then-
well, I mean, I think that maybe we should revamp the clerk's responsibilities then, and dictate in their responsibilities that this is something that you do.
oh, you don't mean town clerk, you mean
I mean,
committee.
our clerk.
Our clerk.
I don't mean
Yeah,
town clerk, I mean
yeah,
our clerk.
that would work too.
Yeah, I'm just trying to
I'm
like
willing to do that.
group here what
Yeah.
our priorities are and what we need to do moving forward. I mean, like when I'm not on the committee anymore, am I gonna keep, all my files, all my agendas, all my minutes, all my whatever?
Right.
I've got the most
Pass them off to
history right
somebody
now,
else.
but there's
Who's
history
going to put him
before
in the
that.
dump?
So,
The problem is,
yeah. I mean, it's the same on every committee, it's the same thing, but,
Yeah, I ditched all my, when I moved, I
Yeah.
ditched all my early real estate and open space stuff because I had a
yeah,
file like this.
right, right.
So I'm, maybe I should just, while I have been the clerk, I'll just open my own Google Doc and save the stuff, and then we'll see what it looks like. You guys, I'll just have my own password, and
Well,
it'll be there.
is a Google Doc easy to give to somebody who's like the next person if they don't have, if they're
Yeah.
not in Google Drive?
Yeah, you just give them the password, and they change the password, and it's theirs.
Like I'm not that, I have Google Drive, but for a couple of boards that I'm on, and I'm not that savvy with it. I'm always struggling to move stuff around in it, so,
well, here's the problem. If Carol puts it on her Google Docs,
yeah.
It's in the
that's tied to her.
cloud, right?
Okay. What you need to do is set up a user account with Google that is Harwich Real Estate and Open Space, okay? So it's
That's what I'm saying.
there, and then you put everything there, and then you can pass that login to someone else. And-
That's what I'm saying.
And that's, because that's what happened to Tour de Trash. Somebody set it up under their account,
Yeah,
and
and nobody
and I-
else could get at it.
and then suddenly they left. Nobody could get into it. It's like, well, wait a second, you know?
Yeah.
Well, in order to do that, though, in order for me to, which I hadn't, you have to have an email account. So this committee would need an email account. We wouldn't have to publish it or anything. That's how, first you,
Right. But you can, I think eventually that's what they did for Tour de Trash was they created an account, a Google account for,
But you're saying it's all lost now?
huh?
It's lost now? Lost, the Tour de
Not-
Trash?
I think they were able to find most
Oh,
of the
okay.
stuff that was wrong. Again, I
Right.
kind of stepped away from it
All right.
and the committee, and I'm not exactly sure what the status
All
was.
right.
But I remember that was a big problem because actually it was Amy's assistant at the time, set the thing up, and then she went and got another job, and,
Right.
it became at least a panic about,
Well, so have we
Do
given
all
any
this.
direction to you?
so what I'm hearing is we set up a Google account under this committee's name, and I manage it.
and then you can, as owner of that account, okay, the committee,
Yeah, I
that's a
manage it.
username and password. Let's say that you create it and you create the password and everything else. My suggestion is you make sure other people have the password so that they can.
That's what, the committee should have the password, right?
But you can actually control from that point, you can say who has access into that direction.
Exactly, right.
And then, so you're not
And-
passing out the password to the account. You are passing out, you are providing access.
Exactly.
So, you know, I have a Google account, or. you know,
That's
you
how
can actually-
Google
you can
works,
actually use
right.
anybody, I believe,
Right.
for access into that stuff. So you could use your KRGS, or whatever it is, email account, and you could get into that, get permission to,
Look, not edit.
to hook into it. You don't control it,
Right.
you can hook into it. And
Can't edit it.
and
So
and
basically, she's sharing it.
she's basically sharing it, okay?
View only,
And
yeah.
you share it, you can share it as read-only, you can share it as read-write, you know, and you do that for all the committee members, and then when somebody leaves the committee, you just revoke their privilege,
Change the password, right.
all right? You've been pulled out, they can no longer get it, put in another, send the privilege to somebody else who's taken their place, and that way it remains. And the key item is to not lose track of what the login information is for the committee's approval.
That's why I think it would be important to have like the clerk's responsibilities on a piece of paper.
I would absolutely agree.
You know, not paper, but. The clerk's responsibilities, like, you know, laid out, so that can be passed to the next clerk.
Yeah,
That would
I think-
include responsibility of whatever.
And the secretary and the chair should have the password, the edit, and so that, you know, if something happens to the secretary,
yeah, absolutely.
then someone still knows what the password is, so it doesn't, you don't have to go through that
Absolutely.
rigmarole of
That's what
how
I'm
to
getting at,
access it.
Yes,
Yep.
absolutely.
So that's what I was proposing too, that's what I'm thinking,
Okay.
yeah, because I know how Google works.
And I think that.
You just explained it.
We ought to have, probably the town planner have that access too. Because we need an official link back to a town department that, you know, because,
Actually, I wouldn't set up this account until we had a discussion with the town planner.
yeah,
There may be something here in town hall that I'm
that
just
we
not
could,
aware of.
we could use.
We could,
Yeah.
but it's that type of arrangement that would provide for a long-term capability for it to keep going.
So, what was that? So that, not the town clerk, but the town planner should kind of have control of it too?
Well,
I'd be
Or
inclined,
run it by them, is that what was?
I would talk to the town planner, I talk to the town clerk as well. Because, you know, the clerk may consider this, well, this is really, you know, town information. and we
Yeah, that
wanna
was
keep-
what I was afraid of,
Yeah,
right,
But,
Yeah.
and it is.
that we're going around the
But
towns.
they don't have a mechanism for doing it.
yeah,
They
So
may, and we just don't know it.
we just, you know, I would follow it that way. I don't want to be in a rush to go come up with the quick solution because it's the thing that we know. It's,
Yeah.
it's the, what would be most appropriate for the town to have.
yeah, yeah.
Okay?
Okay, so I'll take that action item to talk to the town clerk and the town planner.
Yeah,
Thank you.
okay.
Any member reports? Anything else that people?
I just wanted to say that, I don't know if everybody knew, but that the Harwich Conservation Trust withdrew the Sutphen application for CPA funding.
Oh, interesting.
For what?
You mean the reason?
No, I
So,
didn't hear
okay.
what property. They've got a few properties.
The Sutphen.
Okay.
Lack of clarity on the tax situation.
Oh, okay, all right,
It, timing-wise, couldn't be resolved, so he had to withdraw the application.
okay.
So the only application from HCT currently in front of the Community Preservation Committee is the Thatcher
Right.
property.
Right,
So I just wanted to let you know that.
yeah, thanks.
Which I think is a wise move because it just,
What was that?
well, they're not asking for so much money that puts pressure on the CPC to
Right.
make choices and so forth.
Right, so,
So, couple of things. I received an email from Amy Wasowski on the 8th of this month that Harwich is having a second annual Health and Environment Fair for the public on Saturday, April 19th. They want to know if our organization would like to come and have a table, do demonstrations or whatever.
Okay, sorry, I'm not hearing that because you're talking down. What is,
It's a health and environment fair.
health and environment
Since-
fair?
Health and environment. So since we're involved with the environment and saving land and so forth, do we want to somehow get involved with, or someone on the committee want to set up a table or man a table at this health and environment fair or to explain what?
Well, I guess the question is what value would we add,
I-
other than just identifying our committee?
Well, it's basically to let them know what we're doing. I mean, I don't know how many people watch these videos. I don't, you know, I don't know how many people read our minutes or anything of that nature. I mean,
But what would we, aside from manning the booth, have to have?
well, I don't know. I'm throwing out this idea.
Okay,
It's
I'm
been
just-
proposed, and
I'm
saying-
just trying to think here,
I
like,
understand your question.
Before we
but if-
commit to something, I mean, like what,
Yeah.
you know,
Right.
aside from being the warm body that would answer a question and a sign that says what we are,
Yeah.
I mean, like, what would we, you know?
Is the HCT going to have a,
I don't know.
because if they were, then you could just sit next to them. They can do all the work and you can just be there.
I suspect
one
they
little
probably
poster.
are.
Yeah, I suspect they are, right?
I'd be surprised if they weren't there.
Yeah.
My gut
You
is
really
that
want to
it's
associate
not, that we don't really need to do this.
All right.
Um,
Okay,
I'm open, I
Yeah.
wanted to
Yeah.
get your read.
all right.
I don't need anything more to do.
I know, that's kind of all of our problems here, yeah.
I did get an email from Patrick Otten. I got a couple of emails from him. And he had two requests. One of which ties into some of the statements that I read in the OSRP about protecting trees. So he's bringing back the tree proposal that he came at last year.
Yeah,
And he's going to come to town meeting again. I just want to let everybody know he's setting up, he's trying
So-
to raise signatures and so forth.
Okay, so is he coming, does he want to come to Rios to,
Well,
get a letter of support?
I invited him to come today, but he had a prior
Okay.
engagement. So, but I thought, give him the opportunity, because, again, I saw that statement in there and said, oh, that's what Patrick
Yeah.
is discussing about.
well, in the survey work, I mean, the surveys that were done both for the open space plan and for the local comprehensive plan, that issue came up repeatedly, that people were worried about tree clearing, and that there needed to be some better controls about that. So,
Well,
I think it's not just Patrick. I think there are a lot of people who are concerned about that.
Well, if you take a look at the new neighborhood they're building up off Headwaters Drive,
Yeah.
by the
By-
old nursing home,
Yeah,
it's just,
clear cut.
clear cut and dirt piled, 30, 40 feet high, sand. He also had another question, and I'm not sure that it really fits within our purview.
Who's the guy?
But
Patrick
it was something
Oh,
raised
He's come
at
before us before, OTTO.
last year's town meeting. He's looking for 3 to 5 acres to build a private nonprofit organization pool.
A private non-organization,
A swimming pool.
a pool, oh, the pool's coming up again.
And I don't know whether it's directly ours or is our only constituency advising the select board, or is it town?
Well, there was a group that came before the Community Preservation Committee early last year,
Yep.
who wanted support for a intermunicipal pool,
Right.
like several towns. And they went to, various organizations, and Board of Selectmen meetings in different towns. They didn't get a lot of traction in the town of Harwich,
Right,
so,
but they've apparently aligned with an organization that would be willing to build it if they could find the 3 or 5
the,
acres.
the, why? Is that what you said? No,
No, it wasn't the Y, something
a nonprofit?
a nonprofit.
Is it a nonprofit that has any money? No, no, and I'm not being
No,
facetious. Because they created a nonprofit, okay, to do this, but it's just a, it's just a group that's looking
Yeah.
for
Kathy,
funding.
all I heard was, I got is in an
Okay.
email,
Okay,
he wanted us to be on the lookout for.
okay,
Okay.
okay.
Oh,
I don't know if that's appropriate for us to be involved with it as a committee, or if it's.
It's more the recreation, recreation department than our purview, because, I mean.
Well, is he looking for municipal land? Is he looking
He's
for
looking
four to,
for-
he's looking for 4 to
land.
5 acres from the town?
He's looking for land. He didn't specify what type
Pop
of.
that baby right into Little Shaver. Just kidding.
Okay.
so what was his, I didn't catch the name?
That's Patrick Otten also.
Oh, okay.
All right, well, I just mentioned that because
Okay,
I saw it this morning. and I
Okay.
said, eh,
no, okay, that's
I'll
fine.
throw
It
that
can
in,
come
something
before
to
us.
think
Yeah,
about.
yeah.
I have one thing that should be of interest to the committee, which is that you probably read in the paper that the selectmen were having this go around with Bob Freitas about
Yes,
doing road maintenance on Round Cove.
right, and then they
Hawks Nest.
they approved it.
They finally reached an agreement, which allows for some modest widening of Round Cove and,
Maintaining of 14 feet, right?
yeah, right, but still gonna be a dirt road and everything. The motivation for doing this is that he is going to be selling 17 acres of land on the east side of Hawks Nest and the south side of Round Cove to the Native Land Conservancy. So that's really good news. That was one of the pieces of property that we had prioritized as being, valuable for open space. It directly abuts Hawks Nest Park. So I just thought, if you guys had followed that, I think it's the best outcome that could have come out of that dispute. Not everybody's happy with it. Some of the neighbors really didn't want it to happen, but they didn't want any changes to the road, which I certainly understand. But there would, if that had been sold for development, there would have been changes to that road. So, I mean, it seems like the best outcome.
Now, I thought I saw that they were selling it to the group for $500,000?
No,
No.
no, $1 million,
$1 million
$1 million,
for 17 acres.
yeah. Yeah.
They could buy it. I don't know what the topography was in there.
There's some wetland in there, and it's, it's hummocky.
Yeah.
There's a trail that goes through there, but if you came off of Round Cove Road on that trail and you can walk all the way through there to the sand pit, except you have to go through Freitas's land, one of his, paper subdivisions in there, so,
I've mapped that out.
yeah. So,
As I remember,
yeah,
big dips and stuff.
Yeah. So,
I think it's a reasonable solution, I do.
no, I'm really happy to see it protected. I mean, it hasn't been closed yet, so,
It's
crush
not
it.
over till it's over.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, some people feel it's a win-win for the town,
Yeah,
okay?
yeah,
And it is a win, it's the way that it was,
yeah, yeah, it was,
orchestrated. I
Yeah,
mean,
it was
is questionable,
yeah,
and
Indeed.
hopefully it doesn't set precedent.
yeah,
I mean, that's the big concern.
yeah.
I think since it's gonna stay a dirt road though and not be paved, it's not gonna have the issues that some of the neighborhood think that it's gonna have,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. They're worried about it being a cut through.
Right.
And, I mean, some people use it that way now.
Right, exactly.
But, it's, it's not an easy cut through.
No.
You need like a,
Not a known cut through either, so.
well, you know what? Google Maps
Yeah.
will,
Really?
sometimes they'll route you that way.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, yeah, so,
Okay.
Well, you know, that'll be up to the town. I would have no problem with them putting speed bumps.
well, they've talked about trying to do something like that to just slow the traffic
Slow the traffic,
in there, yeah.
I mean, okay. There is a meeting scheduled for mid-February. You're welcome to have it, but I'm not going to be here.
Okay. Is there anything on the agenda?
There's nothing on the agenda right now, and I see no reason to have it.
Okay,
But I'm going to leave it
Yep.
as a date.
okay.
We've got the room reserved, so on and so forth. If
Okay.
something comes up, I'll
Alright.
contact you and ask you to.
Okay,
to-
alright.
to do it.
So we're going to leave it as scheduled or not
We'll
scheduled?
leave it as scheduled.
It is scheduled right now.
But in general,
Now.
in the discussion I had with Mike McCaskill, I simply said, Mike, we're just not going to hold meetings until, you know, unless there's a good reason.
Okay,
So things like the local comprehensive plan, April, May,
okay.
we'll try to fit it in with something else. I'm going to try to do that for the rest of the time.
Yeah, I
until
mean,
we
just so you know, I mean, the hope is that we're gonna be taking the local plan to town meeting in May,
Right.
Well, we have a meeting in April.
yeah.
And
So-
we also have been scheduled for one in March.
Yeah.
So there's,
Yeah.
we'll have at least a couple of different opportunities to address anything that's going to be coming.
All right,
Can I have
motion
a
to adjourn?
to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.